All right. Good morning, everybody. All right. So let's take a look at what the news is this week. So we got, I think it was this week, we got the book. I don't know if I told you guys this already. We're trying to do a book every 2 weeks. That's cool, isn't it? Um, and we're making progress. There is a book. I'm going to give you guys a sneak peek. Sneak peek. That didn't come out right. Sneak peek. We have a book coming out. It's unlike anything else out there, right? I call it the Trumpet Folk Fill in the Blank. And that's what we've been spending a lot of time this week doing. The content for the book is done. We're adding artwork and, there's a lot of stuff that has to happen after the content is done. This book is designed for younger students at the Tyro level. And if you're not familiar with my system, the Tyro level is the second level. Skills that the Tyro students have, they can play in 7 different keys. They have a range up to E in the staff, at least. And they know quarter notes, eighth notes, half notes, whole notes. And so what I've done is I've taken folk songs and turned it into sort of a game. And they get to play the folk song, and some of the notes are left out, and they have to fill in the blank themselves. And the students love this. They just love it. It's I've never been one of those guys that thinks that when you teach, you have to make your material interesting. I never felt like that. I figured the material just better be interesting. Not what that sounds like I'm contradicting myself. I don't have to make it more interesting because someone has, for example, low attention span, right? So, like, I've had students, young students, that the parents would say, "Oh, but half an hour is too long for this child," right? We won't teach 15-minute lessons. Won't even let you waste my time like that, right? But they say they can't do 30-minute lessons or even hour-long lessons because the students don't have that long of an attention span. But what's amazing, and I'm not one of those people that for the little ones I'll say, "Okay, now," right? I don't talk baby to a baby. Gonna do it with my own baby, not gonna do it to somebody else's baby, right? I talk to everybody like a person. And I understand that there's psychological reasons why the baby talk is important. If you're a mother, right? That there are psychological and developmental reasons for people to do that with their children. But I never had that. I never saw a need for it. And what's amazing is these kids that supposedly have no attention span don't want to leave a 30-minute lesson. And it's not unusual for them to say later, "Do you know what? This this child of mine that has a low attention span likes your lesson so much, we want to up it to an hour." When at the beginning they were saying maybe 30 minutes is too much. And I don't try to entertain the students. I just think that when you do things right, you don't have to do all that. It's the only time you have to entertain the students is, well, for one thing, it's different. This is not public school. They don't have to be here. right? So it's one thing, I understand if you have to teach students that absolutely don't want to be there, maybe entertainment comes into the picture. I think we have a really messed up system, really, if you ask me. If people don't want to go to school, if they don't want to learn, um, they're making it bad for everybody. But anyway, that's not what we're talking about. Let's not go in that direction. Right? Anyway, so what I'm saying is this book, even though I don't try to entertain the students, and the book isn't necessarily entertaining. I mean, it's got pictures in it, and but the pictures are more for context, really. It's not there to. Actually, you could color them too. The book can serve as a coloring book. Um, it'll have note sections where you can like be creative and stuff like that. But the main point is that what we're doing is we're training their ear in this book. At that young age, we're getting them to train their ear in a way that they don't even know they're training their ear. And training their technique because, those two actually go together. I don't believe you can separate technique from ear training. I don't think it's possible to separate those two. I actually consider playing by ear a holistic thing. I've been saying that lately. Playing by ear is holistic. It's your whole body. It's not just your ears. Your whole body. When you're learning to play by ear, you're creating a sort of a feedback loop where in your mind you hear the notes, and by hearing those notes, you trigger the feel of those notes. So to the point where the two of them become the same thing. Hearing and doing are the same thing. That's where we want to get in our playing. You hear it and it just comes out. To me, that's what we really mean when we say play by ear, right? You hear it, and all the mechanisms in your body that need to happen to play that note come out. That's the whole point of practicing. As far as I'm concerned, that's the point of practicing, is to get to that point. Anyway, so this book is called The Trumpet Folk Fill in the Blank. And we're scheduled to have all of it uploaded. Now that doesn't mean it'll be available then, but we're scheduled to have it uploaded on the first of the month. And there's another book between now and then. So we've been really, really busy on publishing the books lately. So anyway, one thing I wanted to talk about with you guys before I move on to the questions is I mentioned to you guys in several of these Q&As that I've been experiencing tremendous amounts of weakness in my trumpet playing. And my endurance has gone down the tubes. Now, I shared this with you last week because I had just finished a recital that went well, right? And my approach to get through this weakness was the same approach that I used to build my endurance in the first place. And I told you guys, I welcome this kind of stuff. I'm not saying that I want to be weak. I'm not saying that. But when the stuff happens, celebrate the fact that you now have an opportunity to develop your strength again. Because I promise you, if you can do it when you're weak, you can do it when you're strong. Right? If you can overcome that hurdle. So for me, anyway, the reason I wanted to bring that up again is because this week I got my blood work back. And I'm not going to tell you, I normally would not tell you this kind of personal stuff, but this is related to what we've been talking about. Okay? I got my blood work back, and my hemoglobin levels are just beneath what they're supposed to be. And I'm absolutely certain that that's where the fatigue is coming from. And I actually believe that those tests were done that blood test was done, I think, after most of this has kind of settled and recovered. But yes, I think, and you know what? I told you that I was suspicious that it was either the weight loss or the medication I was taking. And I looked it up online. I found a place that says that weight loss does cause, um, can cause, I'm not going to say does cause, but I found a place online that says it does cause sometimes low hemoglobin. So I think that's what's happened, is because, like I told you guys, I lost weight. I've been losing weight since the first of the year, an average of about a pound a week. That's kind of slowed down now. It hasn't been a pound a week for the last. So now I think I'm averaging more like half a pound a week. So a pound every 2 weeks. So which would make sense because I'm getting closer to what I should be in terms of weight. But the point is that it was making me so tired that I could barely, in my practice sessions, I could barely hold the horn up. And making the embouchure, it would give out so fast because the strength was just not there. And most people, what they would do is say, oh, I'm tired, I need to rest. And that's only half true, right? When you're tired, you need to rest, and then you need to get tired again, right? If we want to build strength, we rest, then we get tired again. We want to alternate between those. We want to push. And that's what I did for this recital last week, is I pushed. What day did I do this? There were 2 days that I really pushed hard in the 2 weeks leading up, maybe more like 10 days leading up to the recital. I think the first day was on either a Friday or a Saturday. It didn't conform to my schedule. Some of you guys know the schedule that I teach. I didn't have the luxury at the time to use that schedule. So I had to make it work with the schedule I had. I think maybe it was Tuesday, the previous Tuesday, and either Friday or Saturday. And then I had a couple of days of rest before the recital. So even when my body was going through this adjustment period, that's what I'm seeing as an adjustment period to losing the weight, right? Even though my body's going through this adjustment period, I was able to use what I know about endurance and strength to actually have a very good recital performance with. And by the way, I don't know if I mentioned their names last week. It was a recital, trumpet trio recital, me and Daryl Bear. Daryl is the guy that gave me my very first gigs in town, and I never stopped working with him. And then John St. Julian. The three of us did trios, and then we took turns playing solos. And I knew with the endurance problems I was having that I was going to have to do something about it, right? So anyway, that's that story. And it's good to know, you get the blood work, and it's good to know that there's a connection there. It's good to know that you're not just feeling this, that you're not just being a wimp, stuff like that. It's good to actually have, the truth will set you free. Isn't that what it says? Right? Anyway, so as of now, I don't have any formal questions. I do have, and it's kind of, and I invite you right now, if you do have questions, to go ahead and ask. But there's one thing I wanted to talk about, because I published a video, and I have to be very sensitive the way I do this because I don't want to expose anything Um, that wouldn't be nice. But I did publish a video this week that I actually recorded it in August, I think, or yeah, I think it was early August, like the first week of August. Fine, I think that's the last of the old ones. So now we won't have a Thursday uh, video anymore. Well, a Thursday behind the wheel. Only Wednesdays behind the wheel, unless I somehow get way ahead again. Um, but anyway, this one was about what was I talking about? So it was the one about talking about the gossip and all that. And one of you, I'm not going to mention names because if in fact I won't even tell why I'm saying this, but let's have a little follow up, okay? Um, what should you do when someone what should you do to avoid the whole cancel culture and having to uh, uh, you know deal with people who might rip you off? What should you do? And so because all I talked about in that video was about how wrong it is. Okay. And we're talking about this now in a way that's kind of like sensitive because I don't want to make it personal. Okay. And it's not that somebody asked the question, but someone did make a comment, but then later took it off. Okay. At least it looks like the comment was removed. I could go double check, but it looks to me like the comment was removed. And that comment touched my heart because something happened to somebody and should not have happened. It wasn't a good thing. Okay. So what do we do in a context like that? You know? And yes, I think one of the best things you can do is let it go. And, I do believe that there are proper channels to pursue, right? If this person should be sued, then I'm not against suing people, right? I'm against taking justice into your own hands. I'm way against that. But I'm not against suing people. That's what the courts are there for. So if something is bad enough that they should be sued, but see, this is where the whole thing gets, why aren't people suing these guys? And it's because they're not telling the whole story, right? This is why it's gossip. It's because these guys aren't telling the whole story a lot of times, okay? So I think a lot of times they don't take people to court um, or follow proper channels. It doesn't have to just be court. You can report them to the Better Business Bureau, which I think this guy said he did. There's things that you can do. You don't have to like call on the masses to like destroy the person's career. And I never said in that video that it's okay for people to do bad stuff. I never said that. All I said was that to gossip about the person and to do the cancel culture thing is in some ways worse than what the guy did in the first place. Okay, so that's all I'm saying. And but that doesn't mean you can't take legal action or official action or something, or even, so yes, that's the one thing I want to make clear was that it doesn't mean that you have to just now throw your hands up and say, you know, um, you know, and that's part of the reason why I was talking about this the way I was, is because there are, um, even just reviews, right? even just you. Now, I don't think leaving a informative review is part of the cancel culture. So, for example, if this happened through eBay or if it happened through um, uh, any platform, all the platforms have policies about, not not about what is correct procedure and stuff like that, right? So if someone sells you uh, something that wasn't the way they said it was on eBay, Amazon, whatever platform, Etsy, then you actually even have a responsibility to give a thumbs down or um, and leave a review that says exactly what was wrong. If you don't want other people, to have the same problem you did, there's nothing wrong with doing that. Now, what I don't like is people having dumb reasons for bad reviews. We have a coloring book. My wife has a coloring book on Amazon, and she got a negative review by someone who never bought the book. What did they say in the negative review? They said that the preview, which we have no control over, right? We don't do the previews on Amazon. That's all automated, right? The preview didn't have any drawings in it from the coloring book. It was all text. So they left a negative review on Amazon. That to me is just wrong. Okay, that's just wrong. That's an abuse of that. Um, and now, just so you don't think I'm just being partial, there is a review that I don't get many negative reviews on anything, right? Even my like ratio here is in my like ratio is really high. So not that I care about that, and that's ironic, right? But if just to show you that what kind of review I do think is okay, even though I don't agree with him. Someone left a negative review on one of my compositions at Sheet Music Plus, right? And he said, gave it a like real low review, and said that the guys in his brass quintet weren't ecstatic about the arrangement after they played it. Now that's even though I wouldn't leave a review like that. That's not the same as this other person, because if that's what you intended, was that this music would make your buddies ecstatic, and that's why you bought it, and that's not what it did, then yes, I can see putting that as a review, right? Okay, so I'm not just saying don't put negative reviews about our stuff, right? I actually don't care if you put thumbs up, thumbs down, negative review stuff. I think, you know, I guess that's a reflection of my confidence in what we do, you know. Um, we're heading in the right direction, and if someone says, and we want, by the way, there's nothing I can do about that one review that we had. Okay, I can't make your buddies more ecstatic when they play my pieces. How can I do that, right? But that I believe that the whole review system is set there in place so that for our benefit, right? As creators. Hey, Osvaldo. Um, so yeah, it's so anyway. Getting back to the point, um, when that happens, there are legal courses you can take, legal avenues to take if you get ripped off. I was only talking about whether or not you should trash mouth the people, you know? And I do feel real bad about what I read on that one comment. That, you know, anyway, let's move on. Practice questions. Okay, do you practice? This is from Mina Okuno. Mina Okuno. Do you practice etude transcriptions in 12 keys? I do a lot of 12 key work, but you know what? For me, it's different. Okay? I don't do everything that I do in 12 keys. I do everything in one key before I go to the next key. So, yes, I do every key. But instead of doing exercise number 1 in all keys, and then exercise number 2 in all keys, and then exercise number 3 in all keys, I do everything in one key. Then I go to the next key and do everything in that key. Now, I shouldn't say everything, no. I don't practice everything this way. There are some things that I won't. So I see, you say etudes and transcriptions. I don't do every single transcription in every key. In fact, it's kind of rare for me to do that. Okay? I don't think there's enough benefit to justify that kind of time, because it really does take a lot of time. I think there's better ways to spend your time so that you get more benefit. Not that that's a bad thing to do if you do that. Yeah, good stuff. And then the classical stuff, same thing. I'll show you what I'm doing right now for my transposition. Now, first of all, let's talk about transposition. What exactly is transposition? I believe transposition is a form of sight reading. A lot of people don't look at it like that. When I categorize all this stuff in my head, transposition falls under the sight reading category. It's just a more advanced form of sight reading. Okay? And so what I try to do is transpose stuff that instead of practicing stuff in other keys, I try to read stuff in other keys. Now, that's not my jazz stuff. Now, the jazz stuff, I transpose all of that because I only write it out in one key. So when it comes to jazz, everything I do is transposed, everything all the time, except for unless I'm in the key of C. Right? So that's a little different. But that's a practical thing. You don't want to have all of that stuff written out in every single key. That just doesn't make any sense. But when it comes to a transcription, I'm just going to do it in the key that it's in, typically. Okay? I hope that answers your question. Osvaldo. Osvaldo is one of my past students, and I hope you're doing well, Osvaldo. Any advice on practicing for college auditions? Well, the stuff we talked about in your lesson about how to practice, all that's just as true for this as it is for anything else. Okay. What I could tell you about is what to focus on. Okay. So first of all, one of the things that would be a good idea is to get. Okay, let me say this first. Don't just pick one school that you like and hope that you get that one. Okay. And you know what? I said that right now before I remembered what you told me which school you want to go to. I'm not gonna say that right now, but you've actually told me which university you want to go to, and as much as I appreciate that, don't limit your options, okay? Don't limit your options. So what I suggest, and I've done this with many students in the past, is collect all of their audition requirements and pull from that. So pick 5 to 10 schools, get their audition requirements, and see where they overlap and where they don't overlap. So let's say out of the 10, 6 of them want you to play the Haydn Trumpet Concerto. Then you better learn the Haydn Trumpet Concerto, right? Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. If they want you to have all 12 keys, all 12 scales, then you better do that. So that's the first step, I think, is to get their college, their audition requirements. They'll send you a sheet or a PDF for a sheet of solos they want you to learn, or sometimes they'll tell you exactly what solo to learn, or sometimes they'll tell you what type of solo to learn. So they might not say, some of them don't say Haydn Trumpet Concerto. Some of them say something like the Haydn Trumpet Concerto. Okay? And that's what I would start with, is to figure out precisely. Actually, the word precise isn't correct there. Get a general idea of what the schools are actually asking for, right? That would be the first step. And like I said, the most important thing is don't limit your options. Okay, movement 1 of the Hummel, that's good. Okay. So how's school been this year? At Westbury, I think you said, right? I hope it's going well for you. Marching band should be about wrapping up. Band, good, going great. Okay, good. So, any other questions at this point? So, what did we talk about? We talked about transposition. We talked about preparing for college. What else do we have? I'll give you guys a few seconds to type. This is a slow week for questions. Usually I get like 3 or 4 at least email questions during the week. I didn't get any email questions this week. You know what? One thing I did want to mention is that my ability to respond to emails and comments and stuff like that, it's sort of like an impact wave senior recital prep. Yeah, you should know exactly what your senior recital is going to be already. As far as I'm concerned, that's something you should already be like finalized already. So yeah, so it's a lot more difficult for me during certain seasons, I guess you could call them, and except that it's not yearly, it's more like weekly. And so things get busy and then they get light and they get busy and they get light. And it's like an impact wave. An impact wave is like when the air pushes against it and then comes out the other side. They call that an impact wave. It's what happens inside the trumpet. And my life is really like that a lot. It's sort of like traffic, right? Where it kind of piles up right here and then goes. So that's how my schedule is. Sometimes I can't respond or whatever as quickly as I can at other times. So yeah. So senior recital, you know what I think about the senior recitals is that they should be fun. It's not your high school senior recital isn't a college senior recital, and it should be fun. Now I will also say this, and this is, you guys know that I'm this way, right? I'll also say this, that anytime you're doing something to show off, that if you turn your senior recital into a show off session, then that's probably not going to go well for you. Okay? The senior recital really should be a celebration of your high school years. So really what you want to do, and I know people don't do it this way, right? I'm telling you the way it should be, not what people actually do. What it really should be is a celebration of your high school years. So you take, it should be a culmination of all the stuff you've done. Instead of trying to push for, and this is what a lot of people do, is they try to like select, they try to make it like solo ensemble contest part 2. And it shouldn't be like that. You're not impressing anybody like that. Okay? What you want to do is take what you've already learned and create a program with it. Create an interesting program out of what you already know. And maybe add one new piece that you think would tie it all together. All right. Oh, by the way, Osvaldo, I found a video of you guys playing some of my music on, I think it was at church or something, some of my trios. And I just wanted to say thanks for playing my music, right? It's always an honor to me when even if it's my students, it's always an honor to me when people choose to play my music. And so, yes, I want to thank you for, it was at church. Well, thank you. So I don't remember when I saw that, but it was maybe a few months ago. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Playing my music. Okay. Any other questions? Any other questions? Typing. We might make this a short one today. My early students canceled today, and I have some plumbing work to do before my first afternoon student, and which requires a trip to Home Depot or something. So I might just, if I don't get any questions right now, I might just call it quits and go get some work done. So I'll give you guys a few more seconds if you want to ask some questions. Otherwise, we'll make this like probably almost the shortest one we've had so far. Okay. Well, oh, you know what? One more thing before we sign off. Might have to move to a different day. Okay. We might have to move to a different day. If I do that, I'll make sure there's notices up and stuff like that. It would most likely be a Friday, and it would most likely be at, well, I'm not going to tell the time, but in the afternoon or evening. And the biggest problem with that is that I do get Friday gigs, and if I have a Friday gig, I won't be able to do this. Okay? But on days that I don't have a Friday gig, but we won't make this change yet until we find out for sure. It's just that the Saturday students are getting filled, and I can't afford to keep this spot for you guys if I have paying customers that need that time. Okay? So there's a slight chance we might move to a different day. And I won't do Sunday. Sunday is my day off. And when I can get it. Anyway, so I see no questions, so I guess it's time to sign off. God bless you guys. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you on the next Q&A or the next video. Thanks for hanging out with me. Bye.